Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. A while back I said that with Warhammer 3 getting closer and closer, the races from Game 1 and Game 2 will eventually need a rework extra just to give them a bit more mechanics. Mainly because that means that everything will more or less be balanced in terms of what they may have and so on. Now obviously modders have been able to fix that right for us, and a new mod has recently appeared on the Steam Workshop known as Faith of the Empire. This mod itself brings in some religion-based mechanics for the Empire in an effort to, well, bring them closer to a more lore-friendly feel, as in the Total War Warhammer series they are all Sigmarites for some reason, yet we know that the Empire itself has a large pantheon of gods, so let's not waste any more time and jump right in. So first up you will notice that you have two new buttons at the bottom of your hub, and the first one itself is your main religion-based mechanic. Now, what you can see here, you'll already recognize, as this is a interpretation of that of the religion mechanic in a Total War Saga Troy. I've told you, that game is perfect to just dissect and put into the Warhammer series. So itself works exactly like the Troy mechanic, and let's just first talk about the gods. So obviously there's a rather large pantheon: Sigmar, Ulrich, Dahl, Manan, Mor, Verena, Myrmidia, Shalia, Reynald, and Urson. I'm not sure why they added in Urson. He's technically only really worshipped in the northern provinces, well, more the ones closer to Kislev itself, but I guess it's probably because of that. He's still worshipped there. It's the Empire has a lot of gods, like a lot of gods. Each of these gods provide different bonuses, so pretty much it more falls onto you and what your specific playstyle is, or what bonuses you want to have. This mod itself allows you to have not only some replayability because of all the different gods, but also if you want to roleplay, if you've got some other faction mods that might work with the Empire, those that give you different provincial troops and so on, you can kind of focus this on a roleplay aspect. It really depends, but it's a good thing, honestly. It works out really well. So what you'll notice is that there are prayer effects and favor effects, and you'll have to use your income for this. This is obviously because we don't have a specialized mechanic here and so on. Those things are quite hard to actually put into the game. So treasury itself works well, and actually in the lore of Warhammer, it's more that people will donate money rather than anything else to any of the respective churches. So each of the gods have different effects, and you work with this as you then gain more favor and so on. Remember that favor can also start to dwindle, so you have to keep going. It's just like the Troy mechanic, though there are some other ways to keep this going. And the mod itself is still a work in progress. Keep in mind that more stuff is being planned in the future, but we'll talk about that later on in the video. So there's a few things here. Favor is how you progress with your god, and the main way of getting favor is down here, which you spend 1,000 to gain 70 favor with your respective god. That's the icon on the right hand side of each god, which can get very costly early on. Keep in mind that the favor itself will deteriorate as turns pass, so maybe early on you might not want to use this depending on, well, what your situation is. You're normally going to be fighting a lot at the beginning, so possibly won't have that much expendable income, though the bonuses themselves are quite useful. So just an example, we can see here with Sigmar you've got 3 tiers: respected, celebrated, and worshipped, each of them providing even better bonuses than the last. As you can see with Sigmar, he focuses around buffing up the Flagrant units and also reducing the construction costs for buildings in your faction, which, you know, is very useful, especially as the Empire itself is one of the largest nations on the Mortal Empires map at the moment. There's also a prayer mechanic, as you can see here, which all of the gods will have access to. You'll spend 500 of your treasury, and with Sigmar you've got 4 different sections. You've got neglected, respected, celebrated, and worshipped. You'll already notice that you'll start off with a minor bonus with each god, as even though they're all neglected, there's something there. I'm not sure what the intention of the modder is there. This obviously is subject to change, if anything. Obviously, it's minor bonuses, so it's nothing game-breaking, and as you progress, you'll get more untainted and ward saves with your units. This is just with Sigmar's prayers, by the way. Ulrich will focus up about buffing your melee units, which, you know, surprise surprise, that's what the god was known for, and make them quite powerful at that. You can see here weapon strength plus 15% at one point for greatswords, which is very strong, and the passive ability Rage. Again, as you see, all the benefits that you get per god is focused around their respective lore, with Ulrich's own prayers focusing on charge bonus and melee attack bonuses. As expected, once again, it fits really well, and if you've got quite a decent amount of Reichsguard, for example, this is a decent bonus. Tal's favor effects will mostly focus around sieges, which might not be too useful, but there's also bonuses towards archers and huntsmen. Also bonus versus large, which is always useful, especially for pretty much most enemies that you'll be fighting against. Whereas his prayers will boost up growth, which is obviously very useful early into your campaigns, well, pretty much throughout your whole campaign, and also boost up the capabilities of huntsmen and archers too, and in most cases you'll be recruiting them throughout most of your campaign anyway, as they are pretty much a top tier unit until you can start replacing them with handgunners. The Sea God Manan will focus around boosting up the capabilities of trade and ports, which obviously is very useful. The ports themselves are a very high income source, with a little boost to the Free Company militia as a favor effect too. Whereas his prayers will focus around moving around the oceans, reducing attrition and giving you increased campaign movement range whilst in the water. Not too sure how useful people might find this. I try to avoid going into the water unless I've got a decent amount of armies, and I'm usually navigating through the sides. Then again, different players, different playstyle. More, the God of the Dead will focus around winds of magic mostly, also reducing the attrition caused by vampiric territory, but as you can see here, the bonuses will be quite beneficial to you as long as you're able to keep them up and running. You'll have more winds of magic, your enemy will have less winds of magic, and you'll also have a reduced chance to be able to miscast. Whereas his prayers will focus around increasing leadership and also reducing vigor loss reduction. It's quite useful, especially if you're going to be fighting against, well, vampires, most types of chaos factions and so on. Extra leadership helps against fear and, well, keep your troops fighting as long as possible. Verena's favor effects will be more administrative, where it focuses on some diplomatic relations, research rate increase, which is quite high at the moment, and obviously Lord Recruit rank. So it's one of those ones that if you want to go and get all the tech done quickly, this will help. Whereas her prayer effects will focus around increasing public order and making sure that enemy heroes have less of a success chance when trying to do something against your armies and settlements. Myrmidia's favor effects will focus around boosting up the capabilities of spearmen, halberdiers and crossbowmen, whilst also being able to get some extra campaign movement range. Very useful, especially for the Empire very early on. Whereas her prayer effects will focus around speed for units and extra melee defense. Shalia's favor effects focus around public order, growth, and diplomatic relations with the Empire and the Emperor alone. Still, it's all very useful, especially if you're playing, say for example, in Legendary mode and need the extra public order, would like the extra growth, and would like to get some extra trade going with all the different Imperial provinces. Whereas her prayer effects focus around casualty replenishment and reduction of attrition if going into areas that would normally start killing your troops. Reynold, the God of Luck, will focus around, well, you guessed it, luck. Extra post-battle loot, better chance at ambushing enemies, and even a post-battle chance of stealing a magical item. Whereas his prayer effects will focus around your heroes and extra chances for them to be able to, well, work around the enemy and make sure that they're not moving as quickly or damaging buildings from inside. It really depends as to how you're using your heroes, and what heroes you're using, of course. And finally, the bear god Urson, who has favor effects focusing around boosting up your capabilities, leadership, melee attack, and much more against the Warriors of Chaos, and some of them against Norska. So now if Archaon the Everchosen wants to come down into the lands of the Empire, he might have to think twice. With his prayer effects focusing mostly around the reduction of attrition in snow and mountainous terrain, so if you want to take the fight directly to them, you are more than able to and won't have to suffer too many losses. Keep in mind that whilst these bonuses are good, you're not able to just constantly spam the prayers or the favors. You'll have to wait a few turns, like for example, prayers themselves have a 3-turn cooldown, and the favors have 4-turn cooldowns. You'll have access to 2 new technologies, which will not only increase the rate as you attain favor per turn, but also reduce the rate as to when it decreases, so you'll be able to keep it up and running without too much of a problem. Right now, as the time of recording this video, both of these techs each takes 6 turns at a research rate of 110, and right now has no cost towards your treasury and so on. I'm not sure if the modder might change that in the future though. You will notice a bunch of new landmark buildings, and in fact these aren't all of them, it's just Altdorf has the most, but there's a lot of them found throughout the lands of the Empire, which each of them can be dedicated to a specific god, have certain bonuses and so on. This will give you incentive to actually go around the map and start taking over every land that should be yours. And finally, there's also religion-based buildings. Again, just like the whole Total War Saga Troy, these are all as you can imagine, churches and temples dedicated to the specific gods of your pantheon. Each will have different bonuses and so on, so it's pretty much just depending on what you want to worship, and obviously if you want favor with a specific god or not. There's a lot of choice, you're spoilt for choice here, and that's pretty much the main basis of the mod now. There is still more in the future to come, as I've checked out the mod page, and there's a bit of a to-do list. However, as it stands, this is great. This is pretty much what I've always been kind of wanting for the Empire, as it makes a lot of sense, them having one of the biggest pantheons, and, well, you know, religion being so important to the Imperials. It's very inspired. It's great to see the Troy mechanic here. I'm surprised this worked out really well, because it's basically importing a mechanic from another thing, unless it had to be scratch built, which is very possible. I wonder, honestly, how the modder did it. However, with all that being said, the mod itself is great. If you're looking for another Empire playthrough, I highly recommend this, because it brings that feeling of completionist with it, because really the Empire doesn't need a lot of changes when it comes to a new rework, but a mechanic like this would be absolutely perfect. You can find the mod again in the description below. I really recommend it. I've been enjoying a campaign at the moment, and it's just been a little bit of extra flavor. It's honestly that good. Oh, quick edit here. I did forget that this is also a part of the faith mechanic too. It's just, we've seen it with the Lizardmen, we've seen it with many people using it, so I completely forgot about it. But yeah, it works as you can imagine. Take over more territories, get more bonuses. It actually does help out a lot with growth too. It's just an overused mechanic, so it's not what I would say the most essential part of the mod. Everything else is the cooler parts. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games, where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel has been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.